This is Brian with screenfiles.com and review. What I'm looking at today is the fourth season, the final season of Netflix's 13 Reasons Why. And I actually enjoyed this series. And I say actually because it's a very odd series in the sense that it's, tonally speaking, very dour. If you're not familiar with it, it revolves around the death of this girl, and she prepared 13 video cassettes to give to various people explaining by death it was a suicide. But she prepared 13 video cassettes explaining why she did what she did. Each cassette given to a person that played a role in her decision. As I said, it's dour. And the thing is, every season is just as dour as the one preceding it. It's not an easy watch, but it's a fascinating watch to see how the producers handle this material. And so that leads to the fourth season, which I might mention, the first 2 episodes were directed by Russell Mulcahy. Russell Mulcahy, you're looking at me as if I'm from fucking Mars. The dude who directed Highlander, for Christ's sakes. Russell Mulcahy. And this was interesting to me. And the fourth season is pretty good, but it's so different than the prior 3. And as I mentioned earlier, there's only so far you can milk that death. So what the fourth season does is it uses it as, I would say, bookends. And it goes into Clay's character. It's the bizarrest thing. And the thing is, based on the series, if you've seen it, you know that Clay saw ghosts, quote unquote. Now the thing is, those aren't ghosts. Those are more reflecting his state of mind, his confusion, his panic, his war with himself, if you will. There are no ghosts in this, but a plot device used so heavily that it feels like they're ghosts. So he'll be sitting in a room, let's say, alone, and having debates with the rapist from the first season and another person from the third season. It's interesting, but again, I know it's not supernatural, but it vaguely feels supernatural. So it's interesting, because as dour as the other seasons were, you know that they couldn't keep relying on the same ideas to propel the story. So they changed it up. And it's odd. It's not bad, it's just odd. And mild spoiler, Clay is losing his fucking mind. They introduce the idea of, I think it's called a dissociative condition or something to that effect. Essentially, Clay develops another personality. Now, keep in mind, this sounds ludicrous, but if you've seen the other 3 seasons of this show, it kind of makes sense, because Clay is Clay's toughest critic. You know that Clay has been taking it really hard, and he's had a really rough time of it, and he has this desire to always be available to help others, while his own mental condition is just coming apart at the seams. So he develops this other personality, if you will, a manifestation of the guilt he's feeling, the chaos that is his life. And as I said, under other circumstances, this would be the dumbest shit and would make no sense. But based upon the character as depicted, it just works. Also, what struck me while watching this 4th and final series is that, and I don't know if the producers intended it this way, but it struck me as a story about privilege, because Clay, as depicted, is a really nice and caring person. But at the same time, he does shit that would get other people tossed in prison or dead, to be totally honest with you. He does some really fucked up things, not always deliberately, keep in mind. But nonetheless, he does some screwed up stuff, and he always comes out on top. Now I get this is a television series, obviously, but nonetheless, the character is the beneficiary of serious privilege. He has well-connected parents. Aside from his own angst, his life is pretty good. I mean, it's fascinating to contrast how he has everything you could want. He has great parents. He has stuff that a young person would really like to have. It's interesting how he has everything, yet his life is so chaotic and so messy. Then again, I also think that that's also a very intentional point that the story is deliberately making. Namely that people have the trappings of success. They have all the physical things that you think are all that's required to be a successful person, whatever that means. But he's still chaotic. He doesn't know where to turn. His life is falling apart. He just doesn't get it. He can't cope. But the thing is, I guess, for me, the reason why I kept up with this series is that, again, Manette's performance, still in Manette, the performance is great, and he always tries. He tries so hard to do the best for the people he cares about. It doesn't always work, spectacularly sometimes, but he tries just the same, and that's kind of life-affirming. For a series revolving around a suicide, it's oddly life-affirming. You have lots of struggle for people trying to find the right path. And most of the characters really work hard at that. I enjoy that. Though what kind of bothered me in context is that everyone on this show is so sincere. Now again, it's a show, I get it. But everyone is so heartfelt and so honest. Even when people are being bad, they eventually reach a point where they're so in touch with what's going on around them. While they can't change anything, they're so honest facing what's going on around them. Even if they deny it, they at least don't hide that denial. They face that. And that's probably one of the more unrealistic things about this series, to be totally honest. In my experience, people don't tend to do that. If they do fucked up things, you never see them face the event as clearly as the characters on this show do. It's well acted, it's interesting, it's dour, but the fourth season is changed enough that I would think if you've kept up with the first three, you definitely want to take a look at it. And if you haven't, it's worth an investment. That being said, the fourth season and the final season of Netflix's 13 Reasons Why is a fitting end to, at times, a difficult story, but it's one worth telling. This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. Do you agree or disagree with my opinion? Let me know down below. I'd like to hear from you. Peace.